Alrighty, so I'm just going to wait until we get some people viewing the stream, and then we'll begin. Alright, if anybody is on the stream now, please place a comment in the stream comment section. Once I see that we have a few people viewing, I will get started. Ooh, lovely sounds in the background. This is my impersonation of a very lonely person. Luckily, we have 6 minutes until the stream is supposed to officially start. Gives good time to fill up. It's always fun looking at these Inception things. Just making sure yeah, link's good. Okay. Three minutes left here. There we go. Cool. Share it with the homies. Oh. Alrighty. We've got 2 minutes left here. If anybody is actually seeing the stream right now, please comment so I can see. I just want to make sure that all the sound and everything is working correctly, that there's no like buzzing sounds or whatever. One minute. I see a pearlman. Alright, let's see. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Yes, it is 1 p.m. Pacific time. Welcome to the stream. Sonic fan character wiki community super whatnots number 2. Create your own Sonic species. I swear that's not a mouthful. So throughout the stream, I'm going to be taking some time to go through each of the entries. I've got notes on all of them here. There are only 4 entries, but there's plenty of detail with each of them. I won't be going through all my notes, but I'll be going over like the main things about each one. I don't have a co-commentator this time, sadly. Kelvin's busy, but I will provide as whatever I think. We'll give a nice general idea. I'll be taking maybe 5 to 10 minutes on each entry, but I'll also try to keep up with the comment section if anybody starts wanting to add about it. So if anybody wants me to go over a specific part, or if there's something related to name pronunciation, additional details, clarification, etc., then that works out. Also, of course, on the right here, I have artwork of each of the species. Most of these are ones that I did because most of the entries didn't come with art. I believe Waffle, though. Let me actually pull his up because I know he drew. I should actually get these. Um, So I'm gonna make another. There we go. So when we get into Waffle and Sphinx species, we'll show some of their art as well. Just a quick little preview here. It's pretty neat, and we'll show the this guy. I drew him for the things, but we're going to be starting with the bright legs. That's these guys, these little spider guys here. I drew 2 of them because they were really simple to make, and I didn't want to just make a very basic art. I wanted to put in a bit more detail, put a bit more work since the other ones only get 1, but there's more in them usually. So let's see. Starting with the biology area, and of course, this is my general overview for the species. You can read this on my notes, which I'm going to provide after the live stream's over. Let's see. All right, so with biology, these creatures they act kind of like sentient watch types. They latch on to their hosts, adding abilities, and they act as a very symbiotic relationship, which I really enjoy. I really like that their appearance has the whole bioluminescence. Um, and let's actually go to the page specifically so you guys can see all the details. I really like that you get details about like their size proportions. I hope I was able to replicate that well enough on the image itself, but it can always be modified later. I like how they choose their partners very specifically. They get very attached, with something I'm familiar with my own species stuff. That's only in the outward structure. We've got their diet. They're mostly vegetarian, of course. And let's see, there was something specific here I remember. Oh, right, yes, the strawberries and candies and all. I think that was very cute for the species. They come across as a very cute species despite being spiders. I think spiders are kind of getting a turnaround in culture nowadays where they're becoming associated less with scariness and more cuteness, which I think is nice. We've got, let's see, their environment, which is pretty neat, I suppose. There's not much in there, unfortunately. I didn't really have too much um, critique wise for the species in terms of the biology section, at least. When we get into history, I think that specifically I had something to say about. I'm just going to go over my notes here. Let's see. Oh, yes, the proto bright legs. I don't think they're called that in the document themselves, but in the history, um, it's mentioned that there was an original version of the species that was like let's see. Yeah, here we go. This is the one. Yeah, the original versions who broke off into the wilderness, they escaped. They had very bad side effects of taking over the host, basically. And there's not really anything expanded on with that. I would have very much liked to see in the post-origin history where they talk more about that, where maybe the proto Bright Legs come back, because later on it talks about the two different types of Bright Legs based on their belief system, and there's one that's more pacifistic, one that's more aggressive. I think that would really fit well with the aggressive one. Additionally, for the history, I think that the time it between everything, because if I'm not mistaken, this takes place across it goes we got 2008 around 2011. And this species goes from creation to being jettisoned into space, basically, and then crash landing or just arriving back and being rediscovered and integrated into society. That's only about 3 years' time, and I think it would be better if it took a bit more time for them to be rediscovered or reintegrated. It doesn't have to be like hundreds of years or anything like that, but if it was maybe 50 at the most, maybe even just 20, I think that would be a bit more realistic, or at least make it feel less rushed in a way. Let's go through here because I would just want to make sure I'm not overlooking certain parts. My notes. Let me see. Oh, let's see. Yeah, I don't have too much else because the history for the Bright Legs is very short. Um, I really want to see more added on in the future, though, because they sound great. And for my example species I made, I forgot what I called them already, the little mop guys. But this reminded me a little bit of those because they're not people level intelligence, but they're still like semi-intelligent and they're more pet-like, more companion-like. So this kind of matched up with that. I think that's really cool. But let me see. We have geography next. Let me see. Areas. The Skitter Grotto. Yeah, it says the main cave. It's an underground route with tunnels that lead to the rest of the cave system. It's wet and moist. It's very spider-like. Something you'd see in Lord of the Rings, probably. Of course, these guys are very non-hostile for the most part. Let me see what else I had for the geography. Oh yeah, the bears. So I wanted to point this out because this is something that's brought up in the cultural area as well. But bright legs don't like bears because bears confuse them, and they don't like Mobians very much as well because they confuse them as well. And of course, bears are usually hostile to the bright legs and end up killing them, which is really sad. But the way that bright legs act around bears, I think is kind of cute as well. And I found that really funny because I saw this just before I was making notes on White Monkey's entry, the bear people whose name I unfortunately have some trouble pronouncing. I'm gonna do my best. These guys right here. So I just think it'd be really funny or interesting to see the bright legs cross over with the bear people from white monkey, especially since when we get into the bear people, they seem very generally diplomatic, intelligent, and so on. So I think that'd be really interesting if that were to ever be explored, like as a crossover. Um, I really like the idea of the bright legs being in zoos as attractions and all, and then being very integrated with general society as exotic creatures. I think it would be really interesting as well if we got to see them interacting with other more exotic creatures. Like if you don't need to come up with a bunch of new creatures or give a bunch of detail to them, but just in passing, like there's this creature that does this specific thing. Like this one looks like a dinosaur, or except they're miniature or something. And just it would I think that would flesh out this particular world setting to show that there are other more exotic or fantastical creatures in this planet, and make it a bit more believable that the bright legs would be so quickly integrated and people would be okay with them, because people usually aren't okay with giant spider looking things. Let's see. We've got culture. Um, Now I really liked the culture part. Let me see. Yes. Firstborn, followers, and shine wall. I'm going to go directly to where that's talked about. Just gonna make sure I'm in the right. Yeah. Do, 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 do. Beliefs. Here we go. Yes. Okay. So yeah, the firstborns the are the pacifistic ones. That's correct. And they believe in the legendary beings who bridge the gap between them and humans, who will one day return and free the species from their threats of captivity. Because bright legs again are very passive. They usually run from a fight. But then of course we also have let's see, Shinewall, right here, yeah. They were the ones held in captivity more, and so they're much more hostile. They attack the firstborns. They don't believe in this entity that'll merge everybody together as one big happy family sort of thing. And I think that would go really well with some kind of story arc within the species involving the proto bright legs, due to them being very those coming across as very dangerous. And I think that would be really cool to see the Shine Wall interact with the proto bright legs, and maybe a new sect of belief uh, rising up from that, where you get the part of the Shine Wall that goes strictly to what they've always believed about, like not believing in this big entity or deity, but then a new sect who now follow the Proto Bright Legs and become even more aggressive, and maybe there could be some kind of crossover with the Firstborn. Let's see. Oh yes, the hats, the art and fashion. I really the hat, that's adorable. I really like the idea of them wearing little hats and things on their backs. I can imagine really easily that just being like a little accessory thing, like if you were playing as a bright leg like in a game or something. You have these little accessories. It makes me think a little bit of Among Us, but maybe that's just current day culture stuff leaking in there. Um, but yeah, I really liked this species. My main criticism is that there's a very tiny timeline, especially compared to other species here. Unless I'm missing something, which I could be, please let me know. Um, it's only about 3 years of time, and I think that there needs to be more for a species this, well, unique, I guess I should say, because they're very particular. They have a very special ability. I really like the way that they have a symbiotic relationship. And given that we have a few symbiotic like species already, I'm glad this one stands out and doesn't feel like it's repetitive or stealing from other ones. So, yep, that's the bright legs. And next we have the Solarian desk. Now, I don't know. I have a feeling that maybe desk means description and it's not actually part of the name, but I'm just going to pretend that they're called the Solarian Desk because that still sounds cool. Let me see where they. There we go. This here is a Versum. This is the one I drew. Let's go back to. Oh, hello, Rose. Go back over here. Oh, hey, there he is. Awesome. Oh, yes. And for those watching the live stream, please make sure if you're going to comment on the live stream so I know you're there. That'll make it easier for me to keep up with people, especially while I'm going over your sections, because that way, if you have statements you want to make, I'll be able to see them much more easily. But yeah, we got Versum here. Let me. This is the original art he's based on. I made him look, I guess, a little bit beefier, I suppose. I really liked his little crownish kind of eyebrows here. It makes him look a little kind of regal in a way. I'm not entirely sure what the wristband looking things are here, but I hope I integrated those correctly. They do look nice. But let's see. The tail, design wise, I think is a little wild, but I think Waffle did a bit better of a job, especially with this arch over here. Let's see. Let's get into the notes for the species. Uh, there we go. Outward structure. Yes. Yes. So these species are interest. This species is really interesting because it feels like a bunch of separate species that have a general similar theme. They're all spawns from different entities found in the Sonic franchise, like Solaris, Perfect Chaos, or just Chaos, Gaia, and let me see, am I missing something? I'm gonna look it up really quick. So Chaos, Perfect Chaos, Light Dark Gaia, Iblis, Mephiles, so yeah, Solaris, and of course Solarian. You know, Solaris. I imagine that's where the name comes from. I really like the style of them because they all do look very Mephiles-like in their structure. They're these stone and metal like kind of looking creatures, but they don't look like those typical stone golem like giants, all rocky and bulky and kind of sloppy looking that you see in a lot of artwork. These guys look a much more person like and like individual and even a little like intimidating. Going back to the concept art stuff, they look very personable. I like the expression that we have here, and you can even tell like with the hand proportions and all, they are distinctly Mobian, which I really like. They've got that very Mephiles like mouth where it's this one looks more like it's separated, as does Versum here. Um, so the appearance I really like. Of all of the species, I want to say this one looks the most spacey, or like I don't want to say most detailed exactly because I think all of them have some pretty good detail generally. Um, but this is very much the most unique looking, I think. Maybe that's if I'm just looking at my own art, but I really like the proportions. I really like just the style because, in general, Mephiles always looked cool, and this being somewhat based on him, I think it really fits, especially in the Sonic setting. So biology, I really like overall, especially the way they have, they consume energy and they consume metal and stone to power themselves. History, generally, I think is actually pretty good. Um, I'm going to check through the history. Let me see here. Yes, so there. This is where we get into a bit more of rocky ground because they're left over from all these different catastrophes, beings, residual energy, and this is my main critique for the species: is that they're very they're very split, and it's hard for me to see them as one specific species as opposed to a bunch of separate species that haven't looked similar, because Solaris has different powers than Chaos, and the same for Gaia, and so on. I think that them all being connected with Chaos energy makes sense, and that could really help it. But I think it would help if the species was more linked to the residual energy of the Chaos Emerald specifically, with maybe them just being imprinted upon by the appearance of these entities. Because it says at the beginning of the origin, from leftover energy, but um, these beings, the species manifests still years after these catastrophes have occurred. And I think it makes a little bit more sense if they were more based on the chaos energy, and maybe over time they would evolve to look different beyond just the other species. Because according to the art that Waffle's shown me and Versum here, they seem to look almost entirely like Mephiles creatures. I don't see a lot of chaos or Gaia in them. I think the coloring gives some chaos vibes, but the structure, the body structure, is much more Mephiles, especially like with the eyes and all. See, we got an owl in here. Nice. Um, oh yeah. So the post-origin history, I think that needed some dating. Um, we have a bit of a civil war here with the Christ, the Chris. I think it's the Christ, but again, you can correct me in comment section. I'll be happy to fix the pronunciation. I'm gonna read this out a little bit here. Let me see. We have one side led by the Christ, who wanted them to be more than pests because these people seem to be a bit nomadic. They are kind of scattered all around the world. They kind of just manifest, like they say, from like volcanoes and such. Um, and then we got Versum here, who's in the story here. The side. Let me see. Extermination. Yes. Okay. So yes, there was the civil war that ended in the Death Gulch, which I'm not going to critique the name there, honestly. Um, I'd be interested to see Christ, what he looks like specifically. Given that we have Versum here. Yeah, and it seems like Versum is more of the not so much the aggressor, but the one that wanted to keep things how they were, while the Chris wanted to be more than pests and was led. The other side was led by Versum. Getting a little lost here. I apologize. Trying to recall all my thoughts on here. I thankfully have all my notes as well. There's something about the historical index, but you can check that out later. That's just something that can be edited later. Doesn't really have to be brought up in the stream. I did want some clarification though, where the species was first spotted in areas, if they, especially given that this species ties into multiple timelines in a way, and it's a little confusing in when and where they pop up originally. I like that the main areas in geography have a lot of specificity. You get name drops for different areas that are actually in the Sonic franchise, and I think that's really important. The the Christ, um, um, because it makes it feel much more like it's in the Sonic franchise, actually, like in a Sonic set world. I like that. Death Gulch gets some detail. Let's go over to main areas. I'm just going to let me see notable areas. Death Gulch, yes. I like that it gets a description because it's mentioned in the history and it's a very important historical battleground. And it says it's covered in rocks and the occasional gemstones from fallen Solarians. I think it would be really interesting if it had a very garden-like aesthetic, like gemstones scattered about, poking up from the ground from like the fallen. Um, Give it a kind of horrific, but also like kind of a beautiful imagery, nice visual there, which I think would make sense given the whole ceremony mentioned here. And then uh, we have culture. Let's see, we got travel history, languages. Yeah, they speak traditionally Mobian mostly. They have some specificity with their own their written language, which is nice. I think that it makes a lot of sense that they mostly just speak the world languages because the species comes across as very melting pot, very nomadic, just kind of adapting to the cultures around them. So while I think it would be nice if they also had their own languages, it doesn't feel like a flaw that they mostly stick to what's already existing that they've just kind of adapted to. Let me see. Belief systems, political systems. Did I mention anything here? Oh, yes, the open flames and crucibles. Yes. So let me see. Open flames, having somewhat of a moral code to protect themselves and anyone who would be a casualty in battles, with the crucibles just grasping for power. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Versum is more related to the crucibles, and the Christ was with the open flames. I'm gonna make sure really quick. Storage history. Yes, it seems that's the way. If it's not, then please let me know. I don't want to mess this up. Um, Oh yes, the art and fashion. Do I have any notes? Yes, the chaoticness of it. Yes, the art and fashion seems very chaotic, but that makes sense given how they are such a mixed people from so many cultures. I've touched on that before. I like that there's a difference in style between the two main groups, which would make them more distinct when encountered in stories, art, and role plays. Of course, um, I think there is definitely role play potential here. But that brings us to the I think let me see where is the there was a specific issue. Yes, I believe Enerjack is actually mentioned in here. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so in beliefs, it mentions Enerjack. We've got Gaia. We've got Chaos. And we've got Solaris. I think they even mentioned the Phantom Ruby. Yes, that's not of their world. This is probably my biggest issue with the species, unfortunately. And mind you, I do really like it. And I think that this can be salvaged, but it's going to take work. This is at least three separate continuities just randomly getting slapped together. Solaris doesn't exist anymore, and it's very hard to decide where it is in the timeline. So, how that fits into this, we don't know. Gaia and Chaos seem to exist in the same continuity, so they're fine. But Enerjack is Archie, so how that exists here is also very confusing. Um, we have the Phantom Ruby, which is just I don't even know where to start with Phantom Ruby. It's possible that the Phantom Ruby could like maybe travel from zone to zone, and that's how it's encountered. And if that's the case, that's fine. I think you can easily write that off like that. But I think that it would help if we got a bit of a world introduction for this to specify this is the kind of continuity this world is based in. Maybe saying it's more similar to Archie or it's more similar to Adventure or etc. And say with these modifications, these events happened, these events did not. Because if we're just looking at the species, it's very hard to figure out how this fits in if you don't have all the context. So overall, design-wise, I think this definitely has the most unique one. It's very chaotic, but I think that it can work. I really like how Versum turned out here, and I think let's see here. I really like these dominance T-posing guys over here. I'm a sucker for the whole giant wide arms and legs thing, very Mobian-like. Of course, I always like to give a bit more anatomy with my stuff, but this is not an examination of my art, so I'm not going to harp on that. But yes, so the Solarian desk, I do really like them. But I think there needs to be some cleanup on what kind of world this is because this seems like it's got like three or four different continuities just existing at the same time, which seems a little messy. So I'm going to close out of that and we move on to the Avery or the Avery. The Avery, I want to make sure I get this right. Is which because I know the owners of this one are in the chat. I'm going to show both. This is one of the characters. I think the name's right here. Ray Sechet. I think I just drew this one. This is just a basic version of the species because they're very money oriented little creatures, little flying squirrel guys. I really like that. Uh, Avery. Okay, thank you. Hey, awesome. All right. So the part we're all looking forward to, we get to critique our admins. Dun dun dun. I just want to. What? You can't escape Lenny. Lenny's everywhere. He's all. All right. So the biology. Let's get the document open. I'm gonna put, yeah. Oh yeah. So this one got a lot of detail. The stylizing, I really like. I didn't write about the stylizing in my notes at all because I thought that'd be a little unfair. But I'm just gonna let everybody look here. You can see it, of course. I do ask that anybody going through this try to focus exclusively on the actual content written and maybe the art rather than the fancy text. Because while this does look great, try not to show partiality towards it looking cool because we're trying to go for content rather than cool looking, even though it does look great. So with that out of the way, let's see. So for biology, oh yeah, right off the bat, I like that they seem like a big combination of flying squirrels, bats, and owls. I like the big antenna on their head. It kind of makes me think of anglerfish in a way, but without the act with the big light and the horror. Um, uh, I think it's really cool to have the antenna because it contrasts with the weak the ears and the third eyelids add a believability to their biology. That's mentioned. Let's see, third translucent eyelid, natural shield against cold winds because this species is in a very cold environment. Their home planet is very hostile. And this species actually does live on its own planet. It doesn't exist on Mobius specifically, which is really cool. Obviously, we're not going to get that much detail about the whole planet because that would take a very long time. But we do get some good examples down the line. Environment description, the heat absorbing, that makes sense. That they have to store up heat given the climate is very snowy, very icy, very hostile, as I said before. Um, oh yeah, I remember mentioning. I feel like this species would have sort of like a tunneling system, sort of like an ant farm thing. But at the same time, in hindsight, given their digits there, I'm not sure just using their hands and all that would work. Tunneling and digging and all. Maybe they'd have to use tools for that. But it comes across as something that could maybe even be like maybe like a beehive sort of thing. Let's see. Oh yes, so history was really interesting. Environment. Of course, I can't go through all this, even though there's tons of information here. I would love to, but trying to be a bit more equal, going through everybody's content here. Oh, not post ownership. Here we go. Yes. So I like that we get a specific time for when they started because some species just don't give specific dates, but it specifies not only the date but the timeline going on Earth Mobius. So I'm guessing this would be 791 um, to 800 in our time. So BC rather than post apocalypse turning into Mobius Earth. Um, we of course get a progression of how they came to be and how they had some evolution over time. I really like. I'm a sucker for progressing names, like how names evolve and how words evolve, terms evolve. So we have the original here. I'm gonna highlight that, and I'll let the creators decide to let me know how that's supposed to be pronounced. um, let's see. We have the aggressive opportunist, far more crafty, and far more willing to hurt people than their own. Yeah, because the original ancestors were more independent and less hostile. We'll find out, of course, later on that the species becomes very much like a little merchant and maybe a little greedy, sort of like thievery, a little bit kind of species. That brings us to the post origin history. I'm going to check for my notes on that. Oh yes, I like how the community split off in the post origin history. I like how a lot of the changes in history, as we'll see, are heavily environmental, with them having to adapt and society going up and down in dark ages and inventive industrial revolutions. And I like how it's the industrial revolutions that lead to the species, the sects that grow out of it, winning conflicts and becoming the dominant. I believe. Yes. Here it is. This is the one. Yeah, I believe this was the tool. The glider was the one that really pushed them ahead and gave them the edge. Uh, and that, let me see, Jethra inheritance. Yes, yes, this is the first nation. I believe it's the one that eventually won the whole conflict in the early period, and then we had the rest of the history here. Let me see. And as you can see, there's a lot of history going through here. I can't go through all of it, but I'll check through my notes. Um, the Pricti or the Pricte. Oh, for Kavri. Okay, thank you. The for Kavri. That's the predecessor to this species. The Avery and the Procarvi. Okay. And then I noted that the Pricti, who I believe those are the ones that become the dominant through industry and cleverness, because there was the aggressive. Uh, let me see. I remember there was an aggressive one. The let me see. Oh, there we go. Yes, the Jek Volok or the Jess Volok. Let me see. We'll figure that out as we go. But these were the aggressive ones, and then the pretty were the ones that basically rose up. I note in my notes here that it made me think a lot of Wakanda, but not in a rip-off way, mind you. Though the whole finding the mineral that helped push them ahead, that really gives those kind of vibes. Luckily, the species is unique enough. They aren't very cat-like. They're more, again, like squirrel-like and bat-like. So I think that separates them more. And of course, they're furries. So let me see. Of course, they get into the space age later on, um, which I noted felt a bit rushed. I'm going to read through my notes here, especially given that the groups had just come out of a dark age and returned to the planet's surface. I think that them evolving so quickly was a little hard to believe. I think that it helped that we had the alien explorers that come and visit them to help them get ahead there, but I think it would have maybe taken a little bit more time for them to advance to that level. Now with geography, I remember there were specific uh, locations I really liked about geography. Let's see here. Where is it? Oh, that's right. Culture got put in that spot. Let me see here. Main areas. Here we go. Uh, there was a city area, and I really wanted to check that because I'm not going to be able to go through all of these, but I'm going to go through the one I really liked. Yes. Vris So or Vrick So. Should we let him suffer? I'm trying so hard. All right, I'm just gonna call it that for now. But this one I really liked, the governing capital. The head administrators rule from Freka Embassy, a collection of impressive buildings overlooking the town from a piece of raised land. It feels very futuristic. I believe it's very packed, or maybe I'm thinking of one of the other locations. But additionally, I remember noting the underground. Let me see. Oh, maybe I didn't. But regardless, I really like the idea of the underground with like black markets and such. These species look really cute though, so it's really funny to imagine them as some kind of like, well, drug seller in an alleyway trying to intimidate kids with a pocket knife or something. uh, of course, I'm also interested to see how they coexist with other alien species on alien worlds, but that's something that can be expanded on in the future. Um, but just focusing on this species by itself, I think it really fits that they're a very industrial and very economically focused species. I'm going to change back to this guy because we're going into culture now, and this robot tire is very important. Um, I'm a sucker for all the language here. I really like how you get examples and even origins for where the meanings come from with some of the words. It feels very personalized, and I like that we get some clarification here in the noble features. I like that it tells us what kind of alphabet they have. There's just a lot of detail, and I think there's only one other up here that gets close to the level of detail here. The other one has more words used, but this one I think goes more in depth to how they work. Um, I think it really makes sense that the Avery don't have a particular like religion. They're mostly just very independent thought in terms of focusing on the economy and industry and progressing. So they don't really pay attention to that. It matches well with a bit of their more morally gray personality. They don't come across as like evil. They just come across as opportunistic. But that varies, of course, between the good and bad versions of that, of course, as we see with the underground, the black market, but also the advancements in industry because they are very good for the market and sharing different cultures, sharing different inventions and all sorts of art as well. Moving into the fashion, I believe. Let me see. Ah, here we are. Avery fashion. It's very Persian, as you can see from the illustration here, which focuses on these designs with the colors. I really like, of course, a little watery gradient. It says Avery merchants are like Bazari. Traditional Avery dress is very vibrant, very colorful, and very flamboyant, which really makes sense given that they're very merchant type species. They'd want to get attention, they'd want to look rich and impressive and eye catching in general. And I think that really matches with their personality and their upbringing. I wouldn't be surprised though if, based on their very well, I don't want to keep saying industrious, but they're very adaptive or maybe futuristic personalities from all their various ups and downs in the historical area. That this species maybe looks a little cybernetic at times with various implants, or maybe piloting little mechs or special suits and things. This species seems like the type that would just jump at any opportunity for advancement and new toys and such. Might see them with like these oversized mechanical goggles and things like that. And then, of course, there wasn't too much with relations, which is fine. I'm looking through my last of my notes here. I want to look at what Chak is really quick because I had notes on that. Oh yes, the style of painting, which the artist paints what they hear, not what they see. That was very special. I really like that idea, especially given how big their ears are and such. Um, it comes across as very personalized. And I think that's something that you see a lot in the artistic world and a lot in the big fancy art shows where a lot of the art pieces look like nonsense or they just look like some kind of scattered design. But they still sell for a great amount of money because of what it means to the person buying it, how it makes them feel subjectively. And I think that for a very people person kind of species that would have to know how people think and how to get people like that, I think this works. So let me see. we White Monkey is here. Lovely. All right. Well, just in time, White Monkey, because we are actually moving on from the Avery now. our last species. All right, so since I'm just so good at pronunciation, I'm gonna let you, White Monkey, tell me what does this pronunciation say. I want to make sure I'm getting this right. And let me show our big bear people. He looks. What is that? Wait a second. Um, hold on a second. Where is he? Yeah, this is what it makes me think of. We have big close up of that guy's face. Oh no, Carol the Kawaii. Thank you. Hold on a second. I'll just put a picture of that. This kind of makes me think of that. Just a little bit. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. All right, let's see. Do we have a convenient time? Yes. Do we have a? Oh, there we go. Yukto po kuo. Yuk. Okay. Yukto pukuo. Yukto pukuo. All right. You looked away for a second. All right. So now this one I think actually might have the most. I might have the most praise in a lot of the detail for this one. Let's see. I have my notes here, but as you can see in the biology itself, there's a lot that's written to specify the structure. There's a lot of detail here about the sexual differences and the how they develop as they get older. You get a lot of measurements. You get a lot about their BPM. You get I, you went in a good way overboard with a lot of this. I really appreciate that because it really makes you visualize these big bear dudes. I really like their skeletal structure. I believe I mentioned that. Let me see. Oh yes. Really quick. Yes, the healing and the physical capabilities with swimming. That makes sense. Let me see. I'm gonna show the healing part. Where is that? Healing rituals. No, we'll get into that later. Uh, maybe it's in the water. We're gonna find it. Here we go. Oh yes, I believe it mentions they have a layer of blubber for keeping in heat and such. I think it's hilarious that they have these tiny little tails that can't wag or move at all. Overall, I really like the detail for the outward structure, the inward structure. I really like how you get an idea of what they are. Unfortunately, looking at the species though, if someone were to tell me that this is just a buff bear character, I would say, okay, yeah, I believe you. There isn't a lot here that makes me think that they would stand out too much as just their own species if we were going to really push it. I think that of all the species, they look the least unique, I suppose, which isn't a bad thing because they definitely do have specific parts. Like I really like the long claws. I like how they're very tall, very bulky. Um, but if I were to make an anthropomorphic bear type or maybe some kind of were creature or something, then I imagine a lot of people might come up with something that looks a lot like what these guys look like. But that's not really a bad thing. It's just something to note in case you do want to add a bit more to them over time. You can, you don't have to. I don't think it ruins the species or even brings them down significantly. Moving to their origin, their history. Um, oh yes, I got a bit more of comic book influence here. I'm just gonna check the stream really quick. um, their origin makes me think a little bit of like of a Wonder Woman kind of Pocahontas feel, with them being discovered by other communities, other civilizations. Um, from what I can recall, they're very isolationist, which makes sense. Which is again a very Wakanda kind of mentality. Unfortunately, there is very little in the historical area except for the index, which I think the index could have also had some information leaked back over to post-origin history, because we get a lot of good details here. Where's the queen? Queen, yes, the queen here. This one I really liked. Uh, and oh my goodness, what? Hold on a minute. There we go. That was appropriate timing. All right. So yes, back to what I was saying. The queen here, I really like name drop here for a specific ruler character. Um, it would have been great to get more on her and more of other leaders over the years. I think that we do get some brief mentions, but I think it would have really helped, especially considering how their culture doesn't seem to change over time very much. They don't advance too far, despite them coming across as a very intelligent species. I think including more about their history in the post-origin history section would have helped. Just talk about like this ruler lived from here to then. They died because of this circumstance. They implemented these policies. They were succeeded by this character. That character changed this, or that character put them in a war, or that character had more peaceful. I think some of that is mentioned here in the index, but I think there needed to be more expanded upon there with geography. Um, there is very little in geography, but what is here is very detailed. I remember in my notes. Oh yes, we have the two specific spots. We've got Senuj. Senuj is the most high populated home. I really like that it mentions how many live there, the population. Again, it gives a lot more realism to the species, makes you understand them more, be able to visualize it more. I really like the style. That they're mostly single story houses, very big ones. It's a moat. Um, there's a lot of fishing involved. It makes you visualize what the area looks like very well. Unfortunately, I can't see the same for let me see, Tamayawa, I think that says. This one, I really like the history behind it. The city has experienced plenty of battles and political crises here, which is cool. I imagine you could fill this area with landmarks, with like statues, graves, maybe a museum with specific weaponry and such. But this area doesn't really tell you what it looks like, though, and I think that would really have helped, especially since it's such an important historic landmark. I like the hospital. I think that just kind of fits with the species because they come across as very non-aggressive generally, like a little expansion based, but they just keep to themselves, and so they don't really seek out trouble. It makes them feel much more diplomatic. That one of the main areas noted is the hospital. I think that adds to the personality of the species. Then, of course, this was the writing I was talking about. Let me just check the Sanuj. Sanuj. Sorry. All right. Yeah, this is the only one that actually has a bit more words than the Avery did. Avery has a bit more specificity with their language, but I really like that this one has a nice long list of words. With all of these, of course, I think it would help if everything had little pronunciation marks and such. Uh, and some of these do, but you're not going to get everything right on the first try with pronunciation, so I'm not going to dock any points for that by any means. Um, I think that the way their language is written makes them feel a bit more low tier civilization in terms of like industry, given how intelligent they are. But I think it also kind of fits with them being like a kind of stoic warrior race. It's more simple, and I think that kind of makes sense. I think I note somewhere about them climbing. Let me see here. Yes. This goes back to biology, but yes, I like the idea that they don't climb, because while they look strong, I imagine if they actually tried to climb, their claws would just get torn up trying to do that. So I think that's neat. But going back to their culture, we have their beliefs. they have their pantheon, which is pretty cool. And each one has a specific title, and we've got the pronunciations here. I'm not going to try with them, unfortunately. I don't want to mess it up. We got the Destroyer, the Devil, the Creator and Destroyer, and I like that this one isn't called like the good guy God specifically. There, the Creator and the Destroyer, which is separate from the Devil. So I think that would be really interesting to see what this species specifies as traits for Devil. We got the one for teaching, love, marriage, the warrior deity, which I'd imagine is very popular. Deity of political debates and diplomacy makes sense, and of course they also have these special artifacts which have like supernatural powers: Gauntlet of Water, Belt of Fire, Staff of Air. The book here, the book of Aloha, it says the most prized artifact. Reading it will transport you to a pocket dimension where the words book becomes sentient, and you must solve riddles and puzzles in order to return to Steve's dimension. I imagine in role plays and stories, this could be a very fun item to utilize. Lots of potential with different challenges, maybe battles, and of course puzzles, like it says. The art and fashion. Let's see. I'm going to go straight to the fashion, I believe. The protective gear, very artistic warrior clothing, I think makes sense. Best clothing. Again, if they feel like a species that would be defensive, but also like wear their weapons and their armor with pride. And of course, that's mentioned briefly in relations. I would have liked to have a bit more in relations, given their personality being very distinct generally. I'm going to check the live stream really quick here. Is there anything being mentioned? Sanuj. Let's see. Was there anything else in my notes I wanted to go over? Oh yes, they also have fur paint. I almost didn't notice that. Yes, which I think just fits perfectly with their species because they've already got a bit of diversity with their fur. But I like that because their fur is very basic colors generally: the gray, the brown, the dark brown, the black, and that's not even just basing on the artwork, of course, made here. Um, but I think when you take those and you add on more vibrant colors, it helps them stand out a lot more, especially if you have different ones that have different personalities. Kind of makes me think of some of the customization in like Skyrim and such. So now with the eyes, I remember when I was doing the artwork, I talked to White Monkey a bit here. Mentioned that they had translucent eyes. Now I just gave him orange eyes because he wanted pupils and irises included. But originally it was just going to be these blank eyes. I don't know what people would prefer with that. I know the White Monkey had me put it like this, so I hope this looks how he wanted it. But that was just a thought. Maybe some more intense members of the society have more like faded eyes or glowing eyes or something. But I'm just a sucker for that kind of style. And I think that is the last one, actually. Yes, we're only just under an hour here, basically. For those that are still in the live stream here, let's see. Do we have any notes from the chat here? No, I do not see it. Okay. Um, for anybody still in the live stream, are there any questions you have? Any things you want me to point out or address or look through for any of the species? I'll give a few minutes here in case anybody has anything they want brought up. Because again, I don't have a co-host today. I'm feeling very lonely. Let's see. We have Perlman getting his comment to lead. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see, anything from our presenters, any of our entries. In the meantime, I'm just going to let me see, quickly link my notes. I'm gonna make a thank you all for coming notice. I'm not gonna add everyone in it. Let me see here. Thank you all for joining for this live stream and participating in the event. Right. There we go. Nice. I don't have any questions. Ooh, that's okay, because that means I get to get off my rump in a second here. Do we have any more art pieces? Oh, we can go over. Does anybody have any concept art of their species they want gone over? I know the Avery. Let me find the Lennies here. Find the Lennies. There's the Lennies. Praise him. I remember the Avery. I really like their basic reference art, but we also have the basic, the original designs. This one right here, this gave me Hollow Knight vibes, like a mask sort of thing. That was pretty neat. And here's Perlman. I believe he drew this one. Very, very cute, very fluffy looking. Those little fluffy legs. I'm trying to find any others. I think the only other one to do concept art was Waffle. Did Sfik do any? No, I don't believe so. All right. Looks like that's it. Neat. Alrighty. So I'm going to quickly go over what the winner gets. Let me go to the original. Here it is. Just to remind everybody what the winner gets. The person that gets the most votes will get a front and back model of the species with male and female references, and up to 3 context pieces, which means showing different parts of the body in the image, like showing a flex or some kind of appendage being used or something fired from like some kind of superpower and so on. It's going to be very fun to draw. Oh. But yes, in about a week, that's when the voting ends. So everybody go please read through these entries. They put a lot of work into it. I hope you guys had a great time, and I will see you later. Let me just close out the stream.